Book review: Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates by Kaytlin Wilson. Overall, I thought Between the World and Me was a really good read. I learned a lot of lessons. It left me with a lot of unanswered questions, and I had a lot of good takeaways overall, I feel like, from the book. Just to kind of summarize some of the takeaways and some of the stuff he talks about. He's basically throughout the book writing a letter to his son about his experiences and his oppression. He's trying to show his son what he experienced in order for him to be prepared for his own future as a black man in America. Some of the other key takeaways were rejecting the American dream, lies in white society, how the school system is built for black people, what issues there are for that, weaponizing fear, racism, the white people trying to control black people, and investigating the world around us. But again, overall, I thought it was a really good read and had a lot of key takeaways. For the book review, I'm just going to focus on the guiding questions. So question number 1 says, throughout Coates' reading, there is a very clear theme of disembodiment as he discusses the, quote, system that makes your body breakable, end quote, page 18. He also, however, says that, quote, our bodies are ourselves, that his soul is the voltage conducted through neurons and nerves, and that his spirit is his flesh, end quote, page 79. What does this mean for the black community as a whole? When he references bodies being broken, is he really referencing the souls and spirits of the black community being crushed by the American social structure? I do think that he is referencing the souls and spirits of the black community being crushed by the American social structure in the book, because he constantly talked about how there are so many lies in white society and how white people clearly show a lot of racism. For example, like white people always try to control black people even if it's in a safe environment, and he also talks to his son about not going to promoted areas of diversity because they really aren't made for black people. Like there's still whiteness there and white racism there present in those different types of societies and diverse urban areas. He also talked about how white people tend to weaponize fear against black people, and that's just another way that white society has been being discriminatory towards the black community. And overall, what do I think this means for the black community as a whole? I think this is just kind of like a reference for them of what's going on in the world, and what's going on between different races and society, and how there's this racial hierarchy, and the black community tends to be on the bottom, and that there's a lot of systems and areas that are against them and people that are against them and things that just aren't made, or sorry, not aren't made, but leave them at disadvantage. Moving on to question number 2. Is it in the realm of possibility to make the American people face the racial injustices and prejudices that exist? From what I gathered from Coates's text, it did not sound at all like he believed that there was a solution for this. He hopes that his son will live in a better world than he did, but he doesn't think that there is like a solid solution out there. Which I also believe this. In the book, he gave an example about not teaching history as it happens is a form of racism, and that in schooling and in white society, we tend to leave out the violent or the bad parts of history, and we tend to teach like the more, oh, sunshine and rainbow side of things. Like this, for example, this Black American, like Martin Luther King Jr. did all this good stuff, but it doesn't focus on the violence that was surrounding Martin Luther King Jr. and stuff like that. Or as a better example, we tend to leave out a lot of shootings that happen in the world, and I feel like George Floyd was one of the big ones that kind of opened everyone's eyes into the idea of police brutality and how the Black community is treated by society and how they're at a disadvantage and all of that types of stuff. So no, I agree with Coates, and I do not believe that it truly is in the realm of possibility to make American people face the racial injustices that society has already set up for us and ourselves. Moving on to question number 3, what does Coates want us to learn from this story? I think that overall his big point to prove throughout the story is to investigate the world around us, to not have blinders on, to use intersectionality like we've learned throughout class and in the readings this past week in class, to look at all people's identities, to investigate the world around us, to find the lies, to find the truths, and from there form our opinions and our beliefs, and do the best that we can to fight for social justice and make all our spaces inclusive, especially as a teacher, making a safe environment in our classroom where voices can be heard, where people feel included and not judged and not at a disadvantage, and all of that kind of stuff. Question number 4, what should be our primary takeaway? I feel like this pretty much aligns with question number 3 and the idea that Coates wants us to investigate the world around us. I also think another takeaway from this, and to relate it back to class, would be what Dewey said about experience and how what we experience in life can form and shape our future experiences and can help us learn what's going on in society and what we can do to help abolish discrimination and social injustice and all that different kind of stuff. And lastly, question number 5, is it insightful or realistic that the author does not offer answers to the problems discussed? In my opinion, I think it's really realistic. I'm a very realistic person. And I just think that there overall are too many problems in society today. Like, there's always going to be prejudice or bias or racism or ableism or discrimination. That stuff is always going to be there. So I think it is realistic that he kind of left us on the edge of our seats of, okay, here is all these problems and experiences and oppression and stuff that I've faced. I don't have the answers. Basically, I feel like it's a big, like, what can you do about it? What can you take from the author's writing, and how can you yourself move forward fighting social injustice or breaking the societal norm and including people and becoming a culturally responsive teacher and that kind of stuff. Like, I think it was very realistic, and that there's always going to be problems. And I also think that there's not just one solution is another reason that he didn't like give us a specific solution, because I don't think it's just one. I think that there could be 50 different solutions, or it could also be situational. So if I'm in this situation, how in this situation can I become less racist? Can I not hold prejudice? Like, I think that this is not an overnight solution. This is not in our generation, in our decade, in our century solution, because there's always going to be hatred and bias and discrimination. It's always going to be around. There's always going to be a whiteness agenda on the other side. And if someone disagrees with that, I would love to hear why they think that there is a solution, or they think that there's only one solution, or all of that. Overall, I feel like Coates left me mostly with a lot of questions. Like it was really good to hear his experiences and what happened and how he wants a better life for his son, and how he wants his son to learn from what all the violence and stuff that's happened in his life. But it kind of left me like a little bit shocked in a way. I was just like, wow, that's a lot that has happened to you in your life. How can I move forward and keep my own biases and my own identities, or seeing all other people's identities and moving forward. But yeah, overall, great book, and I was really excited to read it.